Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon, trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
I'm Jim Goddard. I'm speaking with Ross Kay, home ownership consultant at thewealthyhomeowner.ca. Welcome back to the show, Ross.
Hey, and thanks for having me back, Jim.
Ross, we have Stats Canada claiming new home prices jumped the greatest amount they recorded in the last 3 years. How's that possible during a recession?
It's not. It's not, Jim. It's hogwash. It's nonsense. We're recording a 12% decrease in what home buyers are paying for a brand new house across Canada this August. A 12% decrease. Okay? So Statistics Canada comes out and says that it was a record gain in the last 3 months or last 3 years. They just posted a record gain. Let me check the stats here, Jim. Here's a headline. New home prices had the biggest monthly jump since 2017. Now imagine, you're a young first-time home buyer, you've been on CERB, you were laid down in a lockdown, and the Government of Canada, statistics, the most trusted source of statistics in Canada, thousands and thousands of employees, billions of dollars spent each year, comes out and tells you that new home prices jumped the highest that they've jumped since 2017. CTV News reports that BNN says new home prices in Canada jumped most in 3 years on lumber. Oh, so in other words, they're blaming the cost of lumber on why new home prices jump. This is what they're saying. The data that I'm sitting here looking at in a spreadsheet right now, Jim, is recording a house price decline in brand new houses that we recorded 3 years ago. Okay? This is what we can't understand. Prices of new homes in Canada has jumped the most in 3 years. Lie. False. It's a lie. It's an outright lie. Housing market, moderately vulnerable and potential. That's the CMHC report. Canada's home sales soared and reached a new record. Lie. It's a lie. Now, what do I mean when I say it's a lie? What I mean by it's a lie is I am sitting here looking at data and not stats. In other words, for new home construction, in order to understand what's happened to house prices this month, you must have collected data from the previous year. What is data on a new home construction? Well, the only real data that exists, Jim, are the brochures that new builders publish for their houses. Now, we don't look at condos because condos are irrelevant to this discussion. We can double the price of a condo simply by the type of condo that's being built. In other words, is it a 30-story building? Is it a 20-story building? Is it a 10-story building? Are they little loft condos? Are there 2-bedroom condos? What percentage of the condos are for affordable housing? What percentage of the condos are for rental housing? All of those are variables that you can't get into. But with freehold homes, it's a totally different story because every builder across Canada who has more than one home for sale produces a brochure. Now, if you don't collect that information, if you have not built an infrastructure, a network to collect that information, you wouldn't be able to say that back in 2017, the brochures were showing that the builders began to start charging less for their houses. And then you wouldn't be able to fact check that information this year to see if those things came to fruition or not. We are fact-checking them right now, and we're fact-checking it on closed data. So as people are closing on brand new homes, we're measuring that, okay, to see if our readings from 2 years ago were actually correct. Well, it's as far back as 3 years ago in this instances right now. So the information we were reading from 2 and 3 years ago, is that now showing up 2 to 3 years later in what people are paying for the houses they're closing on? Okay. The way that we record things, housing, the price of the identical square foot new home in the identical location has dropped 12% year over year in August, because we're measuring identical, the same quality, the identical quality. We have the brochures that we have collected that are sent to us. We have emails, Jim, every single day from across Canada, from our data collection network, people who are in a situation of reciprocity with us. In other words, we will tell them what's going on with the housing market in their location if they provide us with the data that we need to do that. It's a deal. It's a deal that we have. It's a deal that we've had for a very, 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 very long time. And that deal has gotten broader and better. So when you hear these headlines, we're just shaking our head. And this is what I want your listeners to get from how we read a housing market to how everybody else in the world measures a housing market. And we're going to go back to the Great Recession of 2008 and why we say we know years in advance that a recession is going to hit or a slowdown in GDP, because we know that the Canadian economy is built on home ownership wealth. If people don't grow their home equity, they're not able to keep spending more and more money because wage gains are not there to support it. Okay? So that's our understanding. We go back all the way, Jim, till July of 2003. So the very first data point that we read from the housing market signaling the eventual Great Recession was recorded in July of 2003. The second data point was a fact check. Point number 2. It was read in May of 2009, almost a year later. So now we have our second confirmation of what's going to happen with the economy, because we know home prices are not going to continue to go up. They're going to go negative. The required gain that is required to maintain the wealth of the nation, home ownership wealth, we have now got our second data point that that's going to go negative. Then we have December of 2004, okay? So we just jumped from May of 2004 to December of 2004, and that is our next data point. So now we're into our third data point that we're measuring. So we are fact-checking ourselves with each new data point that we're looking at. These are different data points, okay? They're not measuring the same thing. They're all measuring components, but they're not measuring the exact same thing every time. These are different data points, different housing market metrics. So then we record the next one in August of 2005, okay? You're talking months and months later. We are now on to our fourth data point. In December of 2005, 3 years before the Great Recession hit, we recorded our fifth data point. These are 5 negative indicators of the forward housing market, what it's going to look like commencing in 2007. Remember, we started way back in 2003. In October of 2007, we had another data point, negative data point. In February of 2008, yet another negative data point. And this one is the final one because you can't reverse once you record it. Because the consequence of this data point is that there is not going to be enough trading volume taking place in the housing market to support house price gains. Right from February of 2008 forward, we recorded a negative housing market through till February of 2010. Okay, folks, that's that entire period of time. We still recorded another 6 months after that, and then the market reversed again. The market actually reversed in October of 2010. So the events that started to take place way back in 2003 were finally concluded in 2010. If you're not reading these things, you're going to believe whatever everyone else is telling you. And we just shake our heads. Why are we the only place in Canada who reads housing data this way? I don't know. I am looking at each twist and turn in the market at a granular level that forecasts what's going to happen. This current negative trend that we're on, okay? This current negative trend that we're on began with the first data point in May of 2014. May of 2014. Now, I know everybody's going to say, well, Ross, housing prices soared in spring of 2016 in BC, spring of 2017 in Ontario. And my answer is, yeah, you're right. That's a consequence of a slowing down housing market. Because first-time buyers are withdrawing themselves from the market. As first-time buyers withdraw, average selling price goes up. You record a peak. Okay, we had a false peak, a second peak, because of the Vancouver, the British Columbia housing market, the foreign buyers that were coming in. Okay, so in March of 2016, we got a data point. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 months of the national housing market reversing itself off the trend. At the same time, it should have been recording negatives, but it didn't. Okay, so that was an impossibility from Canadians. There was only one reason why that positive number was being recorded. That's because money was flooding in from some other place other than Canada. And it didn't take a whole lot, Jim, to change it. Okay? So as we're sitting here, we know that in 2016, the housing market is negative. Okay? We know the consequence of those foreign buyers and then the change of the mortgage lending rules take years before the public ever hears about them. So when we're recording negativity in April of 2018 on our third data point in this housing market, we're recording our fifth in June of 2018, our sixth in October of 2018. We know what is going to show up. There is no way for it to change. The fact of the matter is this, folks. What you're hearing cannot be proven to you with data. Okay? They can't prove it. Okay? I'm sitting here looking at the data as I'm speaking to you with the way that we use that data to measure a housing market. I just explained to you how the Great Recession in Canada actually commenced in 2003, 5 years before it ever turned up. Because as we said in other shows, the housing market is so huge. It commands such a staggering amount of money that has to go into it each year. It takes that much longer for it to turn over. Now, I want to let your listeners know something. August new homes data set a negative record in August. This is a negative record. The negative record was caused solely because of CMHC. Bad policy at CMHC has resulted in this number being recorded. An all-time record decrease. StatsCan is reporting an increase. We're reporting a decrease. A decrease that we recorded way back in 2018 that we now have confirmation of. What that means, folks, is this. As we're getting our data in with our brochures in June, July, of August of 2010, we know what the housing market on the new front is going to look like in 22 and 23. There is no way for this to be avoided. A contract entered into 2 years ago is a contract that will be fulfilled 2 years later or 3 years later, depending on how the structure of the market is at that time. This negative that we have just recorded is a consequence of a mortgage interest rate increase that took place in 2018. Nothing more and nothing less. What StatsCan is telling you, what all the press is telling you, they cannot back up. They cannot show you that new home prices have increased. We can show you they've decreased. And we've got 40 years of data to prove it. I just went through the Great Recession, which we believe is fully caused by the home ownership wealth in this country stalling out, it no longer being available to be leveraged, and it resulted in the Great Recession. We believe the American economy is exactly the same. The only thing that's different in the American economy is this. The amount of data available for the housing market in Canada is unique in the world. There is nowhere in the world where the granularity of data is available to be collected like it is in Canada. Whether it's new homes, whether it's the resale housing market, whether it's the mortgage lending market, all of those components, demographic data, immigration data, there is no country where the data itself exists the way that it does in Canada, as far as we know. We know it's not even close to the United States. You may be able to pick a couple of states and do this, but we know that you can't do it for the United States of America, even though we know the American housing market turned negative in November of 2015. So if you want to believe StatsCan and you want to go out there and make the biggest financial decision of your life, you're going to bind your family to 25 years of mortgage payments, believing StatsCan or your local newspaper, you go right ahead. What I'm telling you is this. Our data, beginning in 2018, signaled house prices were going to be, new house prices were going to be negative. We have been recording negative house prices now for almost a year. That is a consequence of decisions that were made years ago.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Engineer Gold Mines is focused on the exploration and development of the historic high-grade Engineer Gold Mine situated 32 kilometers southwest of Atlan, British Columbia. Engineer Gold Mines is fully permitted for surface and underground exploration with the drill program now underway. Engineer Gold Mines Limited trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol EAU. For more information, please visit us at engineergoldmines.com.
Value from success, growth in discovery. Golden Arrow Resources is a well-funded gold-copper exploration company with proven management and prospective properties in Chile, Argentina, and Paraguay. Golden Arrow trades on the Toronto Venture Exchange, symbol GRG, on Frankfurt, symbol G6A, and the OTCQB, symbol GARWF. For more information, visit us at goldenarrowresources.com or call Sean at 778-686-0135.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, a listener asked, everyone is talking about bidding wars, rising house prices, and sales records. Ross has been saying the opposite on House Street. Why is Ross the only one stating he's seeing things differently?
The reason why we see things differently is the same reason versus the second section. Our new house price index, okay? The Ross K Realty Consultants, okay? That's not for homeowners. That is a professional product. The Ross K Realty Consultants house price index shows a 12% drop in house price, in brand new house prices in Canada year over year. That's totally different than what you're going to read everywhere else. What are we reading about the bidding wars? Bidding wars are a falsehood. The bidding wars. What is a bidding war? There are 4 houses for sale and there are 3 buyers. The 3 buyers go look at the 4 houses and guess what, folks? One of those 4 houses in that price range is the best house and all 3 buyers want it. They ignore the other 3 houses and they only look at the best house out of the 4. That only makes common sense. Canadians are not stupid. Home buyers are not stupid. When they go through a house, they see which of the houses is the best. Now, that is the house, if someone's asking $600,000 for, that they're going to put their offer on. They're going to ignore the 3 inferior homes that are asking $600,000. If there's 2 or 3 buyers in that price category for that one house, they may all put bids on that property. Now, I will tell you the bidding is stupid. I will tell you that it's based on real estate agents who aren't qualified to determine the value of house, who instead will go wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Oh, you decide on the price. Obviously, it must be okay if there's multiple bids on it. You know, but understand, if you want it, you're going to have to go in with your best offer. You're going to have to remove your conditions. You're going to have to go higher than what you were planning to go because you know one of those other buyers is going to go with a higher price. Hogwash. Why would you do that? Do you really believe with the thousands of homes that are out there in your price range that aren't listed for sale today that you can't get one of those homeowners to sell you their home without it even being listed for sale? It's 2020, people. There has been no need for a bidding war in Canada since 2002. There has been no need for it, especially when the real estate agents are playing these games when they underlist the price to drop a better house into a lower price point category so that when you're looking at those 4 houses, you look at that one and you say, oh, this is unbelievable. This house is just such a great deal. And it's the same price as the other ones. We got to put an offer in on it. Hysteria happens. Mistakes happen. Real estate agents go wink, wink, nudge, nudge. you're buying a house thinking, $50,000 more than you originally intended to spend. That's how bidding wars happen. It's how they always happen. It's not because there's not enough houses for sale. It's not because there's too much demand. It's not because the sales to new listings ratio is wrong or the sales to active listings ratio is wrong. It's not that. It's just that home buyers are smart. They pick the best house to put an offer in on. Rising house prices aren't happening. It's a falsehood. You can go out across Canada today and 85% of the homes that were for sale on Realtor.ca last month can be purchased for the same price this month or less. 85% of the houses that were for sale in July can still be purchased in September right now for the same price they were asking back in July. So how the heck did prices go up? It's a scam. You're being misled. There's no one there to protect you. CMHC is not debunking these myths. The government is allowing the Ad Standards Council of Canada is not prosecuting the Canadian Real Estate Board because the Ad Standards doesn't know that the Canadian Real Estate Board is lying to you. The Competition Bureau is clueless to what's going on. And because no one's issued a complaint, they're allowing this to go on unabated. What I can tell you is this. Think about it. You have been under a lockdown for 6 months. Wages didn't go up. Don't believe that nonsense. Have government assistance gone up? Sure. Was it enough to offset wages? No. Because don't forget, there's taxes payable on that government assistance that wasn't collected over that period of time. So that tax is going to have to be paid next year when reality sets home. Wages didn't go up. The only people who kept their wages were government workers. Government workers, they're a different class of Canadian now. They get paid whether or not they go to work or not. Well, the rest of Canadians, the ones who pay their wages, they are shut out of their jobs by the government, who the government then says, here's a few tidbits for you. We're in a recession. There are stores across this country that are boarding themselves up. There are so many announced bankruptcy protections right now, it's ridiculous. You are in a full-blown housing market correction, and everyone is telling you house prices are going up. Think about it, folks. If you can buy 85% of the homes right now that were on the market in July for the same price or less than what you had to pay in July, then obviously house prices didn't go up. The only thing that happened was the share of sales shifted to more expensive buyers because first-time buyers, those on CERB, those with the lower-paying jobs, those that are early in their life, say below 35, are no longer buying houses because they can't get the financing. It's funny, Jim. It's funny, Jim. Let's end this portion this way. How come Canadians never heard about the number of transactions that were voided before they became firm pending over the last 3 months? I know of several instances where homeowners thought their house was sold up to 3 times, and all 3 of those deals fell through after the fact, before the conditions were removed. The buyers were not able to fulfill the conditions, and the deals fell apart. Multiple times this has happened. Well, if that was true, then I guess those houses went back in the market and were subsequently sold again.
We'll have more with Ross Kay right after this.
Media recognition from Bloomberg, Reuters, Recycling Trade Publications. Patented process for 100% recovery of critical metals, including cobalt, lithium, nickel, manganese, aluminum. American Manganese is focused on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. American Manganese trades on the TSX Venture, AMY, the US, AMYZF, and Frankfurt 2AM. For more information, visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
We're speaking with Ross Kay. Ross, a listener asked, does Ross think the government will institute a wealth tax of sorts on our principal residences here in Canada?
What I know is this, Jim. Evan Siddell from CMHC is a doughhead. He has no idea what he's talking about. When I hear these comments from people saying, about how much money people have made in the family home over the last 30 years. I just shake my head and I say, what are you talking about? 92% of all homes owned in Canada have only kept up with their quality and inflation-adjusted value. What that means is this. In order for a 2,000 square foot house built in 1990 to be worth what people are getting for them today is if the owners of those houses have spent thousands, tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of dollars upgrading them. That house, when it was first built, was brand new. That was the dream of every home buying family in Canada in 1990. You couldn't sell today. Nobody wants Formica kitchen cupboard tops, the Euro design as they were called in the day. Nobody wants those ratchety old kitchen latches. They now want granite countertops. The carpets that were installed in the house are no longer any good. They want state-of-the-art hardwood. The roofs that were on the houses that lasted maybe 10 years back then, people now want the top-grade shingles that are rated for 30 years. The furnace that was a high-efficiency furnace at that time burned itself out after 8 years, has been replaced at least once, now has a brand new high-efficiency furnace that is super reliable because there has been 3 decades of development that have taken place. The backyard that you thought was a normal-sized backyard in 1990, because the CMHC has allowed condo after condo, smaller and smaller homes to be built, all of a sudden the quality of your backyard has risen. When you take all of these components into consideration, Jim, 92% of the houses that existed in Canada in 1990 are only worth what the families have spent to own and maintain them over that period of time. They have not gained 1 penny of actual higher house price value. What they've done is they have lived in the home technically for free. They can extract all of the money that they put into that house, the principal, the interest, not the property taxes. Everybody has to pay property taxes on their own. The improvements in the house, the changes, the renovations they've made to the house, and the fact that their house now occupies, in most cases, a higher quality slot in the housing stock. You can only get that money back. There's about 8% of the homes across Canada where those people may have made an extra profit. In other words, those teardowns in Vancouver that are selling for $1.3 million because someone's going to tear it down and build a $4 million home on it. If that family can, which hasn't spent any money in that house over the last 40 years, because it's a dump right now, it's going to be torn down so a new home can be built. If they were able to get out of the market at an okay price, they would have made a bigger gain. But there's less than 8% of the housing stock in the nation where that has happened. So, if you believe that 92% of homeowners in Canada who have not made a real dollar on their home over the last 30 years are going to allow a government to tax them, I think you're wrong. Because this information is going to be coming out over the next while. It is CMHC's responsibility to have told the government that these are what the facts are. This is what the data shows. Here, government, here's the data, here's the stats, here's how we calculate it. It's so easy to calculate, you can do it yourself with a calculator. Fact check us and make sure we're not lying to you. Now, if CMHC doesn't do that, then it's highly likely the government is going to believe all the stories that they hear everywhere else. It's highly likely that the government's going to believe all the fairy tales that you've been told, okay? These are fairy tales. The reason why we promote home ownership as the easiest and best way to build wealth as a family is because after owning a house for 30 years, the hope is you can recover all of the costs that you spent living in it over those 3 years, not including property tax, okay? We don't view property tax the same as everybody else. We view property tax as a municipal income tax, which is why we don't think it's right that low-income Canadians have to pay a higher share of their income into property tax than do wealthy Canadians. We think that's unethical. We think that's really, really unfair. We can't believe the governments have been conned into allowing this to happen. Removing property tax from the discussion, 92% of Canadian families are only going to break even after owning their home for 30 years. Now, if you're buying a home today, you're going to have to go through a housing correction of some sort here. You're going to have a long period of low interest rates because we can't formulate, you know, Jim, we're talking about those data points in the other segments of the show. Those data points, what we're reading with those is the ability of families to take on mortgage debt as well, okay? So when you understand there's not an unlimited amount of room for Canadians to keep on taking more debt, you have to forward predict what is going to happen in the future here over the next 30 years for people who are entering the market now. Because what I can tell you is there is no way that the house price gains recorded from 1980 till today will be repeated in the next 40 years. It is impossible. The math doesn't work. It would mean that Canada is an island in the world, that everybody in the world wants to come here, that we don't let anybody in, and that we become the richest country in the world per capita by 3 times what everybody else is. That's what it would take for that to happen. Luckily, since those price gains are not going to happen going forward, you're not going to have to pay very much mortgage interest because that cost, the people who've owned for the last 30 years, they can recover that cost, even though it was exorbitant, up to 2 times the value of the price of the home that they bought. They paid in mortgage interest over the last 30 years. You're probably not going to trade homes as often. So here's another point, Jim. The average Canadian family who has owned a home for the last 30 years has paid more in commission trading homes over those 30 years than they did pay for the price of the home, the first home that they ever bought. The real estate commission that they have paid are greater than what the price of the home, the very first home they ever bought. That's not going to happen going forward either, which is why the real estate brokerage industry is in big trouble. Canadians are not going to continue to pay these ridiculous fees that they pay. That said, if a government wants to bring in a wealth tax on the 92% of the 70% of Canadians who own homes, go ahead and try, because I'll tell you, you will never withstand the vote.
Ross, thank you so much for the update.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jim.
My guest has been home ownership consultant Ross Kay from the wealthyhomeowner.ca, Canada's authority on home ownership. If you have any questions for Ross, you can send them to info@housestreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HouseStreet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. We're also on Facebook. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HouseStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HouseStreet.com radio is a production of House Street Media Incorporated.